So, you need to know all about the Titanic in 5 minutes so you can spare yourself a trip in a soda can. And here we go. The year is 1912. Wait, 1911. Fall of 1911. On the southwest coast of Greenland, a chunk of glacial ice breaks off of its glacier and floats into the ocean, slowly getting smaller and moving south. 6 months later, it will be as much as 100 feet high and have a large hidden barb under the water. Back to civilization, one of the things that rich people like to do is travel in luxury long distances between the richest cities in the world. Also, lots of immigrants want to come to America because it's cool. And since planes aren't that good yet, their only option is a big cool ship with chandeliers and carpets and stuff. Seeing this American rich guy, JP Morgan, and the British company White Star Lines that he sort of owned, team up to make the fanciest, biggest ever ships for people to cross the Atlantic on. Thus, the Olympic class of ships were made. 3 vessels, the Olympic, the Britannic, and the Titanic, were built from 1908 to 1915 and would be the biggest ships in the world. Of course, for this video, we're only interested in one of these. The Titanic was 882 feet long and 175 feet tall, the largest ship ever made to that point. It had 16 watertight compartments with watertight doors for the crew to move throughout the ship. Titanic could stay afloat if 4 of them were flooded, causing the ship to be marketed as unsinkable, and actually was quite safe for the time. On top of that, it was luxurious with 3 elevators, a swimming pool, a barber shop, a Turkish bath, and even a squash court. The most expensive tickets being around £870, or about $161,500 modern dollars. That being said, cheaper tickets would run just over £7, so it wasn't just rich people aboard, and there were lots of poor immigrants. The ship was laid down in Belfast, Ireland, and took 4 years to make and furnish. Launching in April of 1912, the Titanic made the short trip to Southampton, England, to start its maiden voyage across the Atlantic. The maiden voyage continued, stopping off for a day in Cherbourg, France, then Queenstown, Ireland. The Titanic, with about 2,200 people on board, set sail from New York City. But on the evening of April 14th, a warning came in through the radio. Other ships in the area off the Newfoundland coast had seen lots of floating ice, and all nearby ships were advised to slow down and be on the lookout. Captain Edward Smith, however, ignored this and kept moving at full steam ahead through the frigid waters and changed course, but we can't be too harsh on him. At the time, icebergs were thought to be more or less harmless, and while they could cause damage, the Titanic was so big, the concern was even smaller. But sadly, something went wrong. At 11:30 p.m., the lookout of the ship spotted an iceberg ahead and warned the captain. They tried to slow down and divert the ship, but the warning didn't come soon enough since the lookout didn't have binoculars. The iceberg, which was actually much larger than it had appeared on the surface, scraped against the starboard bow, causing a few tears between 5 and 45 feet long. The Titanic was taking on water, with 5 watertight compartments being flooded, too much for the ship to take. Radio calls and signal flares would go up, but help wouldn't arrive until hours later. One ship, the SS Californian, was nearby, but did not come to help since its radios were turned off. The sinking was not incredibly fast, and at first many people did not even think it would sink. More problems arose as people realized that the ship didn't have enough lifeboats, only 20, and not everyone could get off. This too was normal for the time, since any crash Titanic was thought to get into would be minor, and a full-scale evacuation wouldn't ever be necessary. When the lifeboats began to be loaded, women and children first, many people didn't even want to go as the crash didn't seem too serious, so many lifeboats went into the water far under capacity. But as water filled the foremost compartments, the bow sunk deeper, and since the watertight compartments weren't sealed from the top, water began to spill over into the neighboring parts, causing more and more water to creep in, slowly causing the ship to tilt steeply into the air. About 2.5 hours after the strike, the ship started to sink a lot faster before the power went out and the ship split in half, with the flooded bow sinking to the bottom and the stern settling back on the surface before sinking not long after. In all, over 1,500 people died, mostly men and third-class passengers. Most died from exposure floating in the cold 28-degree water. Only 706 people survived. Afterwards, an investigation was done to figure out what went wrong. Ultimately, the disaster was mostly chalked up to an act of God or just a freak accident, but some blame was cast on Captain Smith, who should have had the ship go slower and handle the evacuation better, and the SS Californian, which should have saved survivors earlier. In 1985, the wreck of the Titanic was discovered 12,500 feet below the surface, and in 1997 they made a cool movie about it. So why is this important? Well, it changed safety regulations on ships, especially regarding the number of lifeboats on board. Many famous and rich people died, which was a blow to the economic and social atmosphere of the time. Also, things we see as dangerous and reckless today were mostly normal for the time, so lots of criticism of the company and crew of the Titanic isn't quite as bad as it first seems. But above all, the Titanic serves as a caution against hubris, much like its biblical counterpart, the Tower of Babel. Even the biggest, safest, fanciest ship owned by the richest man is not above nature or God. So that's it for this video, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what other things you want to see me make 5-ish minute videos on. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.